أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. As for the title itself, the hidden jewels, modesty and dressing moderately and modestly. First issue that we would like to deal with for the vast majority of the lecture itself is just the position of modesty in the deen. And it is a concept that we should be aware of because it's one of those far-reaching concepts that the Nabi came with, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it touches every aspect of the life. It's just not in a way that a person chooses to dress or in the way that Islam commands us to dress. So the word for modesty in Arabic, al-haya, al-haya. And some of the ulama of the Arabic language say that the word itself is connected to al-hayat, like the hayat ad-dunya. So the life is modesty and modesty is the life. It touches every single aspect of an individual's existence. It's just not in dressing. Concerning the issue of modesty, is from the akhlaq of al-Islam. It's from the akhlaq of al-Islam. The Nabi says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, inna li kulli deen khuluqa wa khuluq al-Islam al-haya. Every religion has a characteristic that those people are known for. He said, and the characteristic of al-Islam is modesty, shyness. So it goes to show that the issue is imperative and it is dealing with every aspect of the existence of the people. In another authentic hadith that is well known, Al-Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed us that he came to complete the good character, all of the character traits that Allah Azza wa Jalla likes and loves in an individual. The Prophet came sallallahu alaihi wasallam first showing it within himself. It was embodied within him, and also touching upon it, calling the people to it and explaining it. He says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, innama bu'ithtu li utammim makarim al-akhlaq. I have been sent to complete the good character. Based on this hadith, some of the scholars of al-Islam, they don't accept that we should describe Islam as being revolutionary, because the hadith said that the Nabi came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to complete the good character. The Arabs already had some characteristic traits that were positive. They had chivalry, they were brave, they were articulate, they were generous. They had a lot of characteristics that al-Islam came and said, these things are okay. So Islam is not revolutionary, in that the revolution usually is trying to change everything, good and bad. The revolution comes and it gets rid of good and it gets rid of bad. The Nabi in this hadith showed us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he came to complete the good character. And modesty, al-haya, shyness, it was a trait that the kuffar of Jahiliyyah had. In some instances, in many instances, you'll find in their poetry, there are too many examples of poetry that exemplify that. But in the religion, when the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's companions went to Al-Habasha, Abyssinia, Ethiopia, and Abu Sufyan was a kafir on that day, and he went to try to bring them back to Mecca as captives, and he spoke to the Najashi, or he spoke to the Herakl of Rome. When Abu Sufyan went to Rome and he started telling the Caesar of Rome about the da'wah of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Sufyan said, I wanted to lie on Muhammad. I wanted to say something and put something in there sideways, because all of the questions that he was asking me, they reflected positively on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on his da'wah and his companions. He said, I wanted to lie, but I was ashamed, I was shy, I was embarrassed. I didn't want it to be said that I was caught lying. So it goes to show that Abu Sufyan on that day was a non-Muslim, but he had enough sense not to be known as a kadhab amongst the people. And what prevented him from doing that was not the taqwa of Allah, it was his haya. So the Prophet came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he came to complete this issue. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, talked about the virtues of modesty. And there's no puzzle, there's no strange reason why we've been commanded to dress the way we have been commanded to dress, especially the women. It's no strange issue when we see all of the virtues that have been spoken about and mentioned concerning al-haya. He says, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, al-haya'u la ya'ti illa bi khayr. Modesty, shyness, it only brings good. In another hadith similar to that, he said, al-haya'u khayru kullihi. Shyness, modesty is all good. So with all of the drama, all of the fitna, all of the mashakil that are in the world today, it's a clear indication that if the people had some modesty, Europeans used to have modesty. If the people had modesty today, the problems of the world would be decreased, no doubt. So the Prophet ﷺ came to make this issue an issue that people bought into, they put it within themselves, and they practice it. From the virtues of modesty is that it is al-iman. Al-iman is from modesty, and modesty is from al-iman. Rasulullah says, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, al-haya'u wal-iman qurina jami'a. إذا رفع أحدهما رفع الآخر. Al-iman and modesty, they have been put together. If one of them is raised up, the other one is going to be raised up. If a person has al-iman, he has to have modesty in the way he dresses, in the way he behaves, in the way he sits, in the way he eats, in the way he deals with people. Likewise, if a person has modesty, it is something that is going to necessitate al-iman being there for the most part. So it is al-iman. One of the companions, he had a lot of modesty. He was from the Ansar. His brother from the Ansar was getting on him about being so modest, being shy, not speaking loud, sometimes not necessarily speaking up for himself. He was laid back, he was easy. He wasn't very verbal. His friend said, look, you have to stop being so modest because it's hurting you, it's harming you, it's bringing you trials and tribulations. And he was rebuking him. When the Prophet heard it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told that man, da'hu, fa inna al-haya min al-iman. Leave him alone. Don't say that to him. Don't rebuke him, because the way he is, having this modesty, it is from al-iman. So he didn't allow the man to rebuke his brother because of that characteristic that he was upon, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam. In addition to that, ikhwani, from what we should know is that modesty is the dawah and the religion of all of the prophets who ever came, from Adam all the way to Isa ibn Maryam, salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'in. It's not just in our religion. We know that some of the other prophets and messengers, they came and they ate things that we didn't eat, and we eat what they don't eat. There are certain legislative issues that we have that they don't have. Things that they did that we can't do. Things that we do that they didn't do. But in terms of al-aqidah, believing in Allah Azza wa Jal, the malaika, the books, the prophets, the last day, Yawm al-Qiyamah, issues of aqidah, they remain the same and they're constant. They're parallels in our religion and theirs. One of those constants is the issue of al-haya. The Nabi, in proving this, told the people, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inna mimma adraka an-nas min kalam an-nubuwwat al-ula idha lam tastahi fasna' ma shit. From what the previous people heard, from what all of the prophets told them, is that every prophet told his people, if you don't feel shy, if you don't have modesty, you don't feel shy about something, then do as you like. And we don't have time to explain that hadith because it has two possible meanings. What we want to draw and extract from the hadith is, he said that all of the prophets and the messengers told their people, you're not sure about whether or not you should do this thing, if it's beneficial or harmful, or it's going to cause you a problem. Every prophet told that person, if you don't feel shy about it, then go ahead and do it. So that's a dalil and an indication that al-haya, modesty, shyness, dressing correctly, behaving correctly, it was a characteristic that all of the anbiya and all of the rasul were upon, salawatullahi wassalamu alayhi. Musa, the Nabi, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, described him from those prophets. He said, Inna Musa kana rajulan hayyan sittiran la yura min jildihi shay istahyu minhu. Bani Israel used to have a problem with the fact that they would take ghusuls together collectively, communal baths. In al-Islam, Allah has cursed the lady who takes off her thobe and other than her husband's house. That's an authentic hadith. لَعَنَ اللَّهُ امْرَأَةً خَلَعَةً ثَوْبِهَا فِي غَيْرِ بَيْتِ زَوْجِهَا. Someone comes and he sees that hadith and he says, or she believes, when she goes to her friend's house to sleep over or something happens, if she takes off her thobe, she's been cursed, so she keeps her thobe on. It's not the meaning of the hadith. The meaning of the hadith is the woman who goes to the bathhouse, to the sauna. She works out in the gym, and then she goes into the sauna, she goes swimming, and she takes her stuff off, and everybody is looking at her. So the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he described Musa because Bani Israel used to have communal baths, but Musa refused to do that. He used to go away and he would bathe by himself. They said the only reason why he's doing that is because he has leprosy. And then Allah Azza wa Jal showed them that Musa had muscles, he had a nice complexion, and so forth and so on. But in this hadith, he described Musa as he described a lot of things about Musa, his color, how he looked, his shape, and so forth and so on, his strength. He said that Musa was a man who was extremely modest, and he was a man who used to cover up himself and not allow himself to be viewed. He said he would not allow himself to be seen by anyone as a result of his modesty. So the point here is, all of the prophets and all of the messengers, they called to modesty, and all of the prophets and all of the messengers, they were upon modesty themselves. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was described by his companion Anas ibn Malik. He said about him, Kana Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ashadda haya'an min al-udhra'i fi khidriha wa idha ra'a shay'an yakrahuhu arafnahu fi wajhihi. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was more modest and more shy than the virgin girl, the girl who doesn't have any experience with men. In al-Islam, the virgin girl, the young girl, if we want to marry her, we have to ask her, do you want to get married? The Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if she remains silent, then you can take that as an affirmative from him. Yes, I want to get married. And the reason why she's not going to say anything is because of shyness. Whereas the father may come to his son and say, hey, your uncle came to me and he said that he wants you to marry his daughter, your cousin, my niece. Do you want to do it? The boy gonna say, yes, I want to do it, Abby. He's not going to have any reluctance, and that's because, and this is important, the modesty of the girl naturally is more than the modesty of the man. The man is out, and he has to go out, and he has to have a level of jara'ah, a level of attacking to make money, to make his way. He has to be aggressive. He has to take the initiative. So the man is going to have more modesty than her, but that does not negate the fact that the man in al-Islam still has to have modesty. Because the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the most complete man, and yet Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, Anas ibn Malik, they said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was more modest, more shy than the virgin girl who was in the inner recesses of her home. Not even outside, but in the inner recesses of her home. And if he disliked something that he saw, we used to see his dislike of that thing in his face. And the reason why he mentioned that part of the description is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if he saw something, he wouldn't act crazy in trying to change that thing. If something happens to someone he doesn't like, and he starts to scream, and he becomes arrogant and obnoxious and belligerent, and he becomes violent, and he starts to go crazy and angry, this is a case where the modesty of that individual has been taken away. So a person can say to him in that condition, Won't you have some modesty? Ala tastahi? Don't you see yourself behaving like that? So the narrator of the hadith, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu anhu, mentioned that about the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If he saw something that he disliked, we would know it in his face. His face would become red. You can see the displeasure in his face, and he wouldn't act inappropriately in dealing with something that he disliked. Now, if that's the case with something that he didn't like, what about the case with something that he did like? It's when you get angry, when you lose yourself. You lose your composure. Now, if you're happy, you have more control of yourself. So it goes to show that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam, all of his brothers from the prophets and the messengers, they had this level of al-hayat and this level of modesty. And for that reason, it's not strange, as I mentioned, that al-Islam came and it taught and it commanded and it put emphasis on the importance of presenting yourself in terms of your dress in a particular way. And that's going to come inshaAllah ta'ala. Concerning al-hayat, like every other characteristic, good characteristics in al-Islam are obtained by everybody in two ways. One way is that Allah Azza wa Jal naturally creates the person and He gives it to him. As one of His names is Al-Wahhab. You are Abdul Wahhab. I'm Abdul Wahhab. Al-Wahhab is the bestower. Allah bestows upon people money, wealth, health, intelligence. He gives this one sons, He gives that one daughters. He gives this one sons and daughters, and He leaves this one without any children. That one has intelligence, and that one is challenged intellectually. He is Al-Wahhab. Allah has given people certain character traits that are positive. And then the other way that we develop positive traits is by developing them. You don't have them. Some people have bad character traits. For an example, a person has anger management issues. Another one is stingy. Another one is lazy. Another one is not clean. Another one is not organized. Another one is a coward. And on and on and on. All of those negative character traits, whatever anyone has, we all have the ability to change those character traits. And it's not permissible in the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla for an individual to think or to say or to believe, I can't change what is within me. No one can say that. Because it's not consistent with the deen, and it's not consistent with the waqi', with the reality of the life. Allah commanded us, Rasulullah commanded us, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, a number of ayat, hadith, that we can't lie, shouldn't be lazy, shouldn't be cowards, we should be clean, all of these things. Some people, like the person who may smoke, for an example, smoke cigarettes, he's addicted. You tell him you have to stop smoking cigarettes. His wife says you have to stop smoking cigarettes. He says, I can't. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't. I've been smoking since I've been 13 years old. I'm 50 now, I can't stop smoking. Whatever the character trait that the person has that's negative, he's not modest, she's not modest, was in Jahiliyyah, wasn't taught correctly, so they're aggressive, not modest. Don't ever say, I can't do that, because it goes against the deen and it goes against the dunya. It goes against the waqi', the reality. As for the deen, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah doesn't burden anyone beyond its scope. So Allah would not tell us to adorn ourselves with these good character traits if we didn't have the ability. So everyone has the ability. And there are other proofs. As for the waqi', we see in the circus and other than the circus, non-Muslims, they take wild animals and they teach those wild animals to do all kinds of tricks. The lion is in the cage in the circus, he's opening up his mouth and he's knocking and biting off the head of the trainer. The seal is on the ball, and they're doing all kind of crazy things. And the animals themselves, that's not their nature. They were changed from their nature to do those tricks that they were doing. Allah mentioned in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam. We have honored Bani Adam. If the wild animal can change his akhlaq and his behavior, his natural behavior, then the human being can do it. So a Muslim should never say, I can't stop smoking, I've been doing it forever. Hey, you have anger management problems, they're causing you a lot of problems. He says, I've always been like that, I can't. Nah, you can't say that. In order to change something that's negative, the first step in changing it is to believe in it. So the point here is, all of the positive traits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded. A person gets them because Allah gave it to him. So they're naturally moderate, modest, patient, brave, clean, and so forth and so on. The other way is that the individual, he develops it. There was a companion, his name was Ashaj al-Asri. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was observing the man and watching him very closely in the way he moved amongst the community. And then he summoned him and told him, Inna fika khaslatain yuhibbuhum Allah. You have two character traits that Allah loves. He said, what are they, Ya Rasulullah? He said, al-hilm wal-haya. You are gentle and kind, halim. You are easy, soft. You're not rough and tough with your children, with the people. You're gentle. And al-haya, you're modest, moderate. You have hayat, you're shy. The man wanted to know these two character traits that Allah loves, which goes to show one of the virtues of al-haya and being modest in the way we behave and the way we dress. The man said, Ya Rasulullah, ahadithan kanata fiya aw qadiman. Are these two character traits something that was in me from a long time ago? I grew up with it? Or is it something that I developed? He said, it's something that you've always had. Allah just gave it to you. Our mother and father, Adam and Eve, salawatullah wassalamu alayhima, they had modesty and hayat naturally. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran when they went to the tree, فَأَكَلَا مِنْهَا فَبَدَتْ لَهُمَا سَوْآتُهُمَا وَاتَّفِقَ يَخْسِفَانِ عَلَيْهِمَا مِنْ وَرَقِ الشَّجَرِ. When they were in the Jannah, they ate from the tree. When they ate from the forbidden tree, the knowledge came to them and they realized that they were naked. And as a result of being naked and realizing their state, they went and took from the leaves of the tree that which will cover up their nakedness. No one taught them that. When they ate from the tree, that taught them some things that Allah Ta'ala told them, don't go to the tree. They naturally wanted to cover their nakedness because it is a natural trait. This particular characteristic was in all of Bani Adam. It's from the fitrah. If the human being is left in an environment and there's no corruption, the mother and the father are going to find it easy to grow them up with this hayat. It's something that was in our mother and our father, Adam and his wife Hawa. But if the parent didn't teach the child the importance of al-hayat, he puts him in an environment where it's destroyed, then the child will start acting out the dictates of that particular environment. So if we don't raise the girl up seeing the importance of al-hijab in this environment, if we don't supervise what children see and how they behave, separating the sexes, how they go to school, and all of those issues is going to have an impact on killing that aspect of the individual's fitrah. This is one of the most important principles of this talk today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Bani Adam on the fitrah, the natural disposition to say La ilaha illallah. Naturally, every child is going to say that. Every human being, once he knows his mother and his father, he's going to love both of them. And usually he's going to love his mother more naturally because of everything that she did for him. The way she's been created. She has a fitrah as a woman to give certain things that the father usually is not given. So the point here is, from the fitrah is al-hayat. If a person doesn't take care of it, it'll get corrupted and it'll go the wrong way. So these traits, if a person lost it, he can regain it, as he can regain any trait to get rid of the negative ones that he has. The Nabi told the people, improving the point, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ وَإِنَّمَا الْحِلْمُ بِالتَّحَلُّمِ. Knowledge comes as a result of making an effort and going to get it. And being soft and gentle, if you're not naturally like that, it comes as a result of you forcing yourself to be soft and gentle. You're rough, you're tough, if you just made yourself eat humble pie, bite the bullet, take it easy. After doing that continually, is going to come. Modesty is the same way. Al-hayat is the same way. Concerning the issue of al-hayat, just want to give you some examples, ikhwani, from the life of the companions of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, especially the women. because there's not a double standard here. We're saying women and men have to have hayat in the deen, but the woman naturally, her hayat is ashad, is more. Naturally is more. There was the case with Fatima, the daughter of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was working hard. She was getting calluses on her hand, blisters on her hand. Ali ibn Abi Talib didn't like that. She was working so hard. He said, go and ask your father to give you a slave to help you, a khadam. She went to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When she saw her father, she became shy to ask the question, to ask him for something. And it wasn't something small. So when she came, the Nabi asked her, what did you come for? She said, I came to give you salams. He gave her salam, she gave him salam, she went, she left. She came back the second day, same thing, she was shy. I came to give you salams. Came the third day. The Nabi knew something was in the equation. He said, what do you want, my daughter? She told him his situation, her situation. The Nabi said, I'll come to you tonight. When he came to her at the nighttime, keeping his promise, he came at a time when she was in the bed with Ali. So it was a time when they were tired, they were going to sleep, which would suggest Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was busy during the course of the day, but he's not going to break his promise. So he went to his daughter at the end of the day. They were in the bed. When he came into the house, they were in the bed. They began to get up. He says, stay in your position. Because of their poverty, the blanket that they had, if they covered their feet, their head would be exposed. If they covered their head, their feet would be exposed. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went and sat at the head of the bed where their heads were. Fatima radiallahu anha took the blanket and put it over her head out of shyness and modesty. Her father came all the way to her house at the end of the night because of her. Her father is in her bedroom where she's on the bed with her husband. She took the blanket and put it over her head as if she was going to disappear. So it's a sign of al-hayat. My daughter doesn't have to wear hijab in front of me, but my daughter still has to have some hayat. At the age of 14, 15, 16, 17, I shouldn't see things from my daughter that are from her mahasin. And that has to start to be developed when she's just a little girl. From the hayat of the companions is our mother Aisha radiallahu anha. Aisha, when the Nabi died, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, she would go and visit him in his grave. That was in her house. After her father died, Abu Bakr, she would go visit Abu Bakr, visit the Nabi and Abu Bakr in the grave. And she would go with her regular clothes. But when Umar died, radiallahu anhu, before he died, he told the Muslims, bury me next to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and Abu Bakr, my two companions. He didn't order them. He was the Amir al-Mu'mineen. He sought permission from Aisha because her house. Aisha radiallahu anha said, I was keeping that place for myself, but I'm going to give you al-ithar. I'm going to give you preference over myself. And she allowed him to be buried next to his two companions, sallallahu alayhi wasallam wa radiallahu anhum ajma'in. Aisha said, after Umar was born, after Umar was buried, anytime I went to visit them, I used to put on my hijab and I used to dress properly out of having hayat for Umar, because Umar was not her mahram. Although he was dead and he couldn't see, although he was dead, and if she went there without hijab, she wasn't sinning radiallahu anha, but it was the level of al-hayat. A lot of examples, but the last one we want to mention, Ikhwani, is what happened with the companion named Fatima bintu Utbah. She was a non-Muslim. She wanted to embrace al-Islam. She came to the Nabi to embrace al-Islam. He said to her, before you embrace Islam and I take the bay'ah from you, I want to read something to you from the Quran. She said, okay. Surah Al-Mumtahina had been revealed. Surah Al-Mumtahina is the surah in which the Nabi was commanded, when people come to you who are women, you have to test them in their Islam. It's one of the proofs in al-Islam that we have the right to test people. Someone comes and they want some zakat, they want some sadaqah from the masjid. They want to borrow something from you. They want to do something. And you don't know about them. You don't know their reality. In al-Islam, you can test people in this religion. But you don't test people with the innovative test of today that people are using, calling it Salafiyya. It's not from our religion. Someone comes and he wants to borrow money from me, and I say to him, what do you think about Mizan? And depending upon his answer, I'll give him the money or I won't give him the money. Mizan is my friend, so if he says something bad, I won't give him the money. I don't like Mizan, so if he says something good, I won't give him the money. And then the person comes and says, but in Islam you can test people. La, that's innovation. We test people about the Quran. We test people about the Sunnah. We test people about the companions. We test people about shirk and issues like this. We don't test people about personalities that scholars have ijtihad and different opinions in. Al-Imam Ahmed. Can you test people concerning Al-Imam Ahmed? Yes. Al-Imam Ahmed is an imam of the dunya. But can you test people concerning some of the imams and sheikhs who came to this masjid? Just any sheikh just like that is tested. So the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam read to that lady Fatima radiyallahu anha the beginning of the surah, the end of the surah. Ya ayyuhan nabi, idha ja'aka al-mu'minat yubayi'na ala an la yushrikna billahi shay'a wa la yasriqna wa la yaznin wa la yaqtulna awladahunna wa la ya'tina bi buhtanin yaftarinahu bayna aydihinna wa arjulihinna wa la ya'sinaka fi ma'ruf fabayi'hunna wastaghfir lahunna Allah inna Allah ghafur rahim. He read that ayah. Allah said to you and women like you, O Nabi, if the women come to you to give you the bay'ah and accept Islam, then test them and ask them. You cannot make shirk with Allah anymore. You cannot steal anything anymore. You cannot commit zina. You cannot kill your children, abort your children and bury your children alive. You cannot make up lies against people and so forth and so on. And you can't disobey me in ma'ruf. The lady, when she heard that, stealing, zina, kill your children, she put her hands on her head and said, Allahu Akbar. Would I do something like that? Out of hayat, that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would even mention the ayah to her, because she felt, I'm way above that. This is not from the characteristics that are embodied within me. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was impressed with a level of al-hayat in her response. The lady became a Muslim. Not to mention, ikhwani, how all of the Ansar women, when those ayat of al-hijab were revealed, they immediately went without any hesitation to their homes. They informed the people who were behind them about these ayat. The men heard the ayat, they went to those women, their wives, their daughters, their sisters, aunties, mothers, and they put on that hijab, radiyallahu anhunna. Those are the women from the companions, and many examples with them. Some lady came and she had a wet dream. For those of you who know about the wet dream from you older brothers, she saw in a dream that she was having a relationship. She doesn't know what's the ruling. If I'm married and I have a relationship with my husband, I know the ruling I have to make a ghusl. But I saw something in my dream. She came to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in front of all of those men who were in his majlis. She said, Ya Rasulullah. And then she looked at the men and she put the thing over her face. Prior to the question, her face was exposed. A dalil that the niqab is not wajib. Ya Rasulullah. She put the thing over her face out of embarrassment and haya, modesty, shyness. She said, Hal tahtalimun mar'a? Is it possible that a woman can have a wet dream? Does a woman have a wet dream? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Naam, idha ra'at al-ma. If she sees wetness and moisture, then she had a wet dream. She has to make a ghusl. Those are just a few of the many examples. The tip of the iceberg, as they say, concerning the hayat of the women and what al-Islam said about the woman having modesty and being a modest individual. But for our community and for the balance and for the advice, it's not exclusive to the women. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said about the men, especially his companion Uthman ibn Affan, Dhunnun. He says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-haya'u min al-iman wa ahya ummati Uthman. Al-haya is from faith for everybody. He didn't say al-haya is just for women, Muslim women. He said al-haya is al-iman, it's from faith. And Uthman, he has the most modesty from my religion. And he's a man. He has more hayat than any other individual in this religion. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting, and Abu Bakr came, and he was sitting at a well, and his thobe or his izar, his clothing, was rolled up, and he had his feet in the well relaxing. Abu Bakr came, Rasulullah stayed in that position. Umar came, he stayed in that position. Uthman came. Before Uthman came, Rasulullah rolled his clothes down and covered up his knees and his awrah. The companions, they did the same. Uthman came, they sat, they got up and they left. Aisha said, Ya Rasulullah, when my father Abu Bakr came, you were on that condition. When Umar came, you remained in that condition with your clothes rolled up, exposing your knees. But when Uthman came, you put everything down. He says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, afala astahi min rajulin tastahi minhu al-malaika? Should I not be shy of a man who the malaika are shy of? Another virtue of al-haya is that the malaika have haya. The malaika have haya. They are embarrassed. They are shy about seeing human beings in conditions that are compromising. They don't want to see a Muslim kissing a dog. They don't want to see a Muslim doing crazy things. The two malaika that we have, part of al-iman in the malaika is that the individual knows that he has two angels, so he conducts himself and he acts accordingly. The higher his iman is, the higher that reality and that yaqeen is, the better he's going to behave. Aisha radiallahu anha was in the bed with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jibril came. He didn't come into the room. He called the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah came out and he went outside, and then Jibril started talking to him. Why didn't he come into the room? He had shyness about the condition of Aisha radiallahu anha. So it's natural for an individual to shower, and when he takes a shower, he doesn't take a shower with his clothes on, akramakumullah. But that doesn't mean that even if no one is at home, we should walk around with no clothes. Doesn't mean that at all, because we have malaika who are in our presence. So that hadith that we used, ikhwani, goes to show that Uthman is a man, and yet he is the most shyest individual after the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in our ummah. A man came from the companions, and something that they were doing that didn't sit right with some of them, something that our youth are exposed to. Sports people, our kids who are in school, they take physical education, gym class, getting undressed in front of each other, swimming, and your aura is being exposed. When our daughters have friends over, relatives over, cousins, they're 13, 14, 15, they sometimes are easy in letting other people see their mahasin. The companions were doing this type of situation. It was uneasy with some of them. So they came and they said, Ya Rasulullah, what do you have to say about our aura, my aura? And the aura is the thing that cannot be seen on the individual. He said, what do you have to say about what people can see and should see about my aura? He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ihfadh awratik illa min zawjatik wa ma malakat yaminak. Don't let anyone see your aura, anyone, except your wife or what your right hand possess. During that time, the slave. So if you're not married, if you're married, your child can't see your aura. If you're a married individual, the only one who can see your aura is your wife, and that's it. If you're not married, no one should see your aura. The man went on, he wanted further elaboration. He said, Ya Rasulullah, but what if the people are together? We're swimming, we're fishing, we're on a boat, we're playing some sports together. What if the people are together? Then what do you have to say about that? The Nabi told him, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, in istata'ta an la yariyannaha ahadun fala yariyannaha. If you have the ability to not allow anyone to see your aura, then don't let them see your aura. He didn't say it's okay. He said if you have the ability, then don't let it happen. So we understand the opposite is, if you don't have the ability, then what can you do? You have to go to the doctor, and the doctor, he exposes you. He has to check you. Even if the male doctor has to check the female, or the female doctor has to check the male patient. You don't have anything, you don't have any other choice. What can you do? What can you do? Someone dies. There's the corpse, is dead. Someone's going to have to come and look at the awrah, and given the ghusl, things are going to happen. The dead person is not in a position to do anything. So the Nabi, when the man said, when we're together, okay, I understand, I shouldn't let anyone see my awrah except my wife or my slave. But what if we're doing something collectively in the community? He said, if you can, don't let anyone see it. Okay? The man went on and he said, وَإِذَا كَانَ أَحَدُنَا خَالِيًا, what if one of us is all by himself? What about then, my awrah? He told him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Allahu ahaq when yustahya minhu. Allah has more right that you have hayat from him. Allah has more rights that you are shy with Allah more than anyone else. And in regards to our clothes, ikhwani, the awrah, the haya, the modesty, and the clothes, they're all intertwined, they all work together, even in the salah. Even in the salah. Someone gets up and he wants to pray Salatul Fajr and he's a bit lazy. They asked the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam, how should they dress when they make salat? Should a person be lazy and just wear his pajamas, or just wear any kind of clothes and his clothes are exposing himself in his back when he makes sajda, or he's just really lax? When he comes to the masjid, he rises to the occasion and he dressed properly. But at home, in private, he's laxing. The Prophet told him, Inna Allaha ahaqwan tutazayyana lahu. Allah has more rights that you beautify yourself for him in the salah. Those kuffar of Saudi Arabia, those kuffar of Quraysh, the kuffar of Quraysh, they used to make tawaf, as you all know, around the Kaaba without any clothes. I know the drone issue is on your mind as well. I'm going to say the kuffar of Quraysh, they used to make tawaf around the Kaaba. And the lady would take off her clothes in a sign of ikhlas, and she would make poetry saying, I'm going to make it halal just so that I can make the tawaf, but I don't make it halal for anybody to touch it. And they had all of this poetry about these issues. Allah revealed the ayah of the Quran, Ya bani Adam, khudhu zinatakum inda kulli masjid. O sons of Adam, daughters of Adam, wear your beautiful apparel at every masjid. Meaning, at the time of salat, you should cover up your awrah. When this ayah was revealed, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told Ali bin Abi Talib, I'm going to send you and you're going to go to Yemen. On your way to Yemen, every single grave that you find that is raised above the ground, level it and make it even with the ground. Every picture that you see, deface it. Every statue, break it, deface it, mess it up. And when you get to Mecca, make the announcement at the Kaaba. After this year right now, no one can make tawaf naked after this right now. After this moment right now, no one else makes tawaf naked. So from the prerequisites of a salat is that the person has to cover up his awrah. From the examples of the hayal of the companions, as we just mentioned, they were together. They felt something is wrong in this religion. Not in Jahiliyyah, but in this religion. When they saw how the religion was, they said something is wrong with people taking baths together. So it went to show that they were sensitive to that. So before moving on to the next point, I have to emphasize for you young brothers who are in school, it's not permissible. You play sports, it's not permissible to take a shower. You and other people, you have to tell those people who are responsible, I'm not doing it. I either take a shower by myself, or I put my clothes on with the dirt that I have, or you have to come up with some type of alternative. As for people in prison, you don't have the ability to do anything. May Allah Ta'ala protect and save our shabab and all of us from prison. The Muslim population in the prison of young people in the city of Birmingham, Winson Green Prison, there is a high population of Muslims in the prisons. You want to be a tough guy and you want to have these, be in this society the way it is. That's one of the things that you're going to have to deal with if you go to jail. You're going to have to deal with people telling you when you can eat, when you have to sleep, when you could come out, when you can pray, and when you can take a shower. And not only when you can take a shower, in America, it's not here. The prison here for the most part is pretty easy. In America, you have to go to the toilet, akramakumullah, in front of everybody. You have to go to the toilet. And some of these places, unfortunately, like Jamaica, if you travel to some of these Caribbean countries, they're being tough with the Muslims now because of a problem that happened in Jamaica. Someone from Jamaica was in this country. A lot of problems happened. They deported him. So they don't want radical Muslims to come up in that area. If you want to travel and leave that area, come into that area, Jamaican, other than that, those people will tell you to come. We want you to urinate in the bottle. And you have to urinate in front of us, And that came as a result, ikhwani, of Muslims being too rough and being too tough. In the airport, they have that machine for those of you who fly, and that machine takes a picture of you, and they can see inside of you if you're concealing something, and the contours of the inside of your body can be seen. There's an option. You don't have to go through that. You have the right to say, religiously, I don't want to go through that. So that's not the first alternative for the Muslim based upon the fiqh of this issue. The fiqh of covering up the awrah. The Nabi says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, don't go in that thing. He said that over 1400 years ago. Where did he say that? And that thing wasn't even created back then. He said that in this statement for the Muslim man and the Muslim woman, don't let anyone see your awrah, whether you're showering, other than that, unless you don't have the ability. If they say you must go through, then you just have to go through. The last example, ikhwani, from the modesty of the companions and their behavior is what happened with Amr ibn al-As. Amr ibn al-As was a personality during the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam who was a force to be reckoned with. He was on par with Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, Abbas, Hamza. He was not a second-rate individual. He was someone who people respected, radiyallahu anhu. He said in Jahiliyyah, before becoming a Muslim, he hated Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with a passion. He hated him and his religion. He said, but then when he embraced Islam, he started to love the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam a lot. He said to the tabi'een, those people who did not meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, if you ask me to describe him to you, I wouldn't be able to describe him to you because my eyes would not look at him. I wouldn't get a complete picture of him. I wouldn't look at him. And as we mentioned before, from al-haya, from modesty and shyness, is respecting people who are older than us, especially our parents, especially people in position of authority, our ulama, people in position, your teacher, even if they're non-Muslims. From al-haya and modesty is not being a person who gives your teacher a bad attitude, sucking your teeth, and giving them kalam and being nasty, even if they're non-Muslims, because they're in a position of being above in terms of the dunya. They're teaching you. You have to take from them. They already have a job. They already are educated. So again, for you young brothers, for you young sisters, and for all of us, people in position of authority, your mother, your father, your uncle, your auntie, your grandmother, grandfather, ulama in al-Islam, we should have that thing. The wife or the husband, the man married the lady from Africa. And from the culture in where she comes from is that the wife doesn't look at the husband straight in the eye. The wife doesn't look at the senior brother straight in the eye. She puts her head down and turns away. She even sits on a lower seat out of respect. He sits on the couch and she sits on a little pillow on the floor. In this society, the Muslim woman says, no, I want to sit right next to you on the couch. If they want to do that, that's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But in our religion, there's nothing wrong with that expression of respect. Nothing is wrong with that. That doesn't say, and it doesn't mean, and it doesn't imply the lady is a second-class citizen. The youngster is a second-class citizen. It doesn't mean that at all. Doesn't mean that at all. So you Muslims, hold on to your religion and hold on to the culture of the Muslims that don't go against the religion. As for the culture where the young person doesn't have anything to say, we don't care about his point of view, we're going to force him into a marriage. No, this is backwards. This is backwards. As for the wife having acid thrown in her face and being treated like an animal, this culture thing is from Jahiliyyah, it's not from Islam, and we don't support it. But we say without hesitating and without biting our tongues, the culture of Al-Islam, where we, Abu Usamah, someone comes, he's 65, my mother, my father, non-Muslims, me dealing with them. If my mother told me, be quiet, I don't want to hear what you have to say right now, I don't want to hear your point of view, I have to be quiet. And she's a non-Muslim. So I'm telling you, and I'm sharing this with you, because we don't want you young brothers in coming to this country or these countries that are similar to Europe, these European countries, America, don't lose your religion and don't lose the Islamic adab. And from the most important aspects of Islamic adab is al-haya. The Nabi said about al-haya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, al-iman bid'un wa sab'una shu'ba. فافضلها قول لا إله إلا الله وأدناها إماتة الأذى عن الطريق والحياء شعبة من الإيمان. Al-Iman is 70 something branches. There's 70 levels to being a mu'min, and we all trying to be mu'mineen. May Allah Ta'ala make us all mu'mineen haqqa. He said there's 70 levels. The highest level of being a mu'min is saying La ilaha illallah. No one has the right to be obeyed and worship Allah. Kuffar, jinn, white, black, Pakistani, nobody deserves to be worshipped. No one deserves to be feared except Allah Azza wa Jal. No one's law no one's law should be obeyed other than Allah Azza wa Jal. We're in a condition, we do the best that we can. But if someone came and tried to put pressure on you, what do you think is better? Democracy or Al-Islam? Gonna say, Wallahi, Al-Islam is complete, is perfect. When people practice it correctly, it is the answer to all of the problems for Bani Adam. All of the problems. Whereas democracy, it has some good things and it has some problems. Al-Islam, perfect. The Muslims are not perfect in the way they behave or the way that they practice the religion of Islam. Al-Iman is 70 branches. The highest one, La ilaha illallah. The lowest one is picking up something harmful out of the street. And he said, Al-Haya, modesty, shyness, is one of the branches of Al-Iman. It comes somewhere in there. Somewhere in there. And as we mentioned earlier, it is the khuluq of Al-Islam, the adab of Al-Islam. Last thing that we want to mention, Ikhwani, is concerning the modesty in the dress. There is in our religion, from what I know about, and I've heard about the fiqh of al-nikah. I know about the fiqh of al-jihad, and only if the people who are talking about jihad will learn about the fiqh of jihad, they wouldn't be creating all of the drama that they create. There's the fiqh of talaq, divorce, fiqh of salat. There is the fiqh of the awrah, the fiqh of awrah. For those who don't agree with me, I never heard of the fiqh of chilling. I never heard of that myself. But the fiqh of al-awrah, this issue is an issue that the scholars of Islam dealt with and is important. And in these few minutes, I can't give the issue justice. And I didn't want to come and give a class that's fiqhi like that. But it's a responsibility that everyone has to go back to read it, to learn it. What is the awrah? The awrah is that thing that can't be seen, it shouldn't be seen by other people. It's haram for it to be seen. There is a real awrah and there's the figurative awrah. The figurative awrah is the hadith of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-mar'atu awrah. The woman is an awrah. The woman So the meaning of the hadith figuratively is she shouldn't be seen. To the best of her ability, she shouldn't be seen. So Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ وَلَا تَبَرَّجْنَ تَبَرَّجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْأُولَى. You women, stay in your homes and don't make the display like the display of the times of al-Jahiliyyah, where the girl came out into the community and she perfumed herself. She plucked her eyebrows. She chiseled her teeth. She put all of the henna on herself. She used to walk with bangles on her feet to make noise so that the people can look at her. She wanted the people to say, hey, who is that walking over there? She wanted to say, hey, here I am, look at me. That was in Jahiliyyah, mixing with the men. As I told you, the revolutions that these Muslims in the Arab Spring is drama and folders, confusion. The Muslim woman comes on Jazeera and she's complaining that they were groping her and they ripped up her clothes. Allahu Alam, she said it happened. When they showed the footage, the question is, in all due respect, that's not a place for the regular Muslim guy. What about the Muslim woman being out there? I don't know if you saw that footage. So now she's running around with the non-Muslims trying to get women's rights because they're raping people or groping people. And what do you expect in such a crowd like that? You think the people of Salat, those are people of Salat, or those people out there, every Ahmad, Bakr and Zayd is going to be there. So the point here is the Muslim woman, to the best of her ability, should stay in her house, away from the people, to the best of her ability. Modesty in Islam, ikhwani, in the street, if she does come out, is that she has to come out with the hijab that Allah Ta'ala has revealed in the Quran. Has revealed for in the Quran. Modesty for the Muslim woman is, as the Nabi says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the men were sitting in the street, he said, "Iyakum wa turuqat wal julus fi turuqat." Hey, you men, be careful about sitting in the street, on the sidewalk. They said, "But Ya Rasulullah, we have to sit on the street. We don't have anywhere else to go. So we sit on the street." He said, "Okay, if you have to sit in the street, then give the street its haqq." They said, "What's the haqq of the street?" He said, "Do the amr bil ma'ruf, do the nahy anil munkar, give salams when people walk by, and lower your gaze." He taught the women, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when the woman walks down the street, the Muslim woman walks down the street, she should walk next to the buildings. There's the street, there's the building, then the sidewalk, the pavement, and then there's the street where the cars are, where the traffic is. The Muslim woman who knows her religion from the fiqh of the issue is, she should walk next to the buildings. Aisha radiallahu anha said during their time, the women used to walk on the buildings and sometimes their clothes would get snagged. So they had to be conscious of not getting your clothes snagged. She said if the Prophet saw the women today, during her time, after the death, he said if he saw the women today, he would have made inkar on them. What is the condition today? Today, where the Muslim girls get out of school, Islamic school sometimes, they get out of school and they walk down the street in a bunch of gangs about to fight each other, screaming and swearing and cursing. So that's from the modesty of the issue. As it relates to the awrah, ikhwani, there are two types of awrah that we have to understand. There is the awrah of the salat, and then there's the awrah outside of the salat, and they're different. The awrah outside of the salat for the man is that it is permissible for you to sit amongst people with a towel, like when you make hajj and you have your ihram. Your navel to your knee is your awrah. Everything else can be seen. If you're sitting there and everything is exposed, your chest, your muscles, your shoulders, and your legs below your knee, you have fulfilled the prerequisite of the awrah outside of the salah. But it's another question, is that appropriate? We're going to have a dinner, inshallah, today after this talk. We go to the brother's house and we get there. Someone comes with a towel and we're going to say, "Akhi, that's inappropriate. What are you doing?" He says, "But you said in the class." "Ya akhi, we said in the If you're making Hajj or Umrah, you can sit like that. And even in that case, you should try to cover yourself up. If you're miskeen to that level, then it's okay to sit like that. If it's really, really hot, and it's just really hot in a difficult situation, and we're all like that, or you're like that because you can't, we can understand that. But without a justified reason, it shouldn't be done. There's big ikhtilaf between the ulama of Islam whether or not the thigh is from the awrah, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had his thigh exposed, as I told you. But there is a hadith that he told the people sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-fakhf min al-awrah. The thigh is from the awrah. Al-fakhdan min al-awrah, aw kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Your thighs should not be seen by anyone. So you can't wear shorts. You can't wear shorts in Al-Islam. The shorts, if we're going to play basketball, it's not a big sport over here, but in Toronto, the Somali community over there, pretty soon some of those guys are going to go to the NBA. It's the professional basketball over there because they've been in that country and that's the sport in that place. If we play basketball recreationally, professionally, we should cover up our knees. Outside of the salat, the awrah for the woman is everything. Kullu shay for the woman. Everything except her face and her hands. Her neck is from her awrah, shouldn't be seen. Her ears shouldn't be seen. Her feet should have socks on them. And if she doesn't have socks, then the dress that she wears should cover it all up. If she wears pants, it's permissible, cover up to her awrah, but she shouldn't wear pants alone. She should wear something outside of those pants that don't allow people to see the contours of her body. That's outside of the salah. Inside of the salah, the awrah of the man is different. The man has to cover up his shoulders in salah. Both of your shoulders have to be covered, and not with the vest. We call it t-shirt in America, but the vest. You have to have something going over your arms, over your shoulders. If you pray with that vest, your salat is batila. You didn't fulfill the prerequisite of salat, which is covering up the awrah. So you have to have that covered in the salat. All of this has to be covered all the way up to the knee. But the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the men in terms of their dress, their thobe, their izar should not be below the ankle, up to halfway of your saq, of your shin. That's inside salah. Cover up your shoulders in the prayer. Cover up your shoulders in the prayer. Some people may take that t-shirt and it has his arm, it covers his shoulder and it has his arm showing like this. This is something that's disliked. As we said, Allah has more rights for you to beautify yourself when you come to the salah. Try to wear the most appropriate, most befitting clothes that you can wear. Just as you won't go to an interview dressed inappropriately, you won't go to a dinner dressed inappropriately, don't come to the salat inappropriately. As for the woman inside of the salat, it's the same thing. The awrah for the woman inside of the salat is like outside of the salat. Nothing should be seen of her except her face and the hands. The awrah for the woman in front of other women, Muslim women, is that she can show them her mahasin. She can sit with regular clothes, without hijab and so forth and so on. But still, she shouldn't show them the inner, most sensitive secrets of her mahasin. Women need to be careful about going to these women who take the hair off of their body. You should do that for yourself. The legs, your arms, people want to put henna on you, no problem. You can let them do that. But the other sensitive parts of the body, you shouldn't go and let people do that. And that's something pretty common here in our city. It's common in the Muslim world. That's something that the Muslim should do, the woman should do for herself. It's not durura that she allows, that is done in that particular way. So if she wants it done that way because it's better for her, it works for her, stays longer, clean for her, then let her be the one who takes it off. So this is what we want to mention in the presentation, and a lot of other things can be said. Maybe for the next 10 minutes during the Q&A session, inshallah, 15 minutes, some other issues will come out. And Allah is a'la wa a'lam. Testing people like people of knowledge is something that's permissible in the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. As everyone knows, the famous incident with Al-Imam al-Bukhari when he went to the city of Naysabur where Muhammad ibn Yahya al-Dhuhli was, Al-Imam Muslim was there, and they asked him about those 100 hadith with the chain of narrations, and he put everything right, and they tested him. But in that test, that imtihan, the ikhtibar that they gave him, they were people of knowledge, and they themselves were ulama, and they were contemporaries. So there was nothing wrong with that. The Salaf Ikhwani, as you all know, Hassan al-Basri, Muhammad ibn Sirin, they used to tell the people, this knowledge is your deen. Pay attention who you take your deen from. Those Salaf used to say, like Ishaq, like Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, about the Salaf, if they wanted to take knowledge from someone, they would look at how he prayed, they would look at his guidance, and they would look at how his hadi and his samt was, how his general situation was. They just wouldn't take knowledge from people. So if a person wants to test someone, in those books that the scholars wrote about how to be a student, how to get knowledge, the verses of knowledge, there's always that chapter of asking questions. If the goal and the objective behind the test is to really see if this person is competent and if he's the person to be learned from, then it's okay. But if the goal and the objective is to embarrass him, to show that the questioner has more knowledge, to make him look ill-equipped or stupid, or to be argumentative, then this is something that is frowned upon, it's not permissible. So it depends on the situation. It's permissible to test people in knowledge of this religion to see if they are qualified and they are competent. It's from the ilm of al-hadith. It's a bab from the abwab of al-hadith, testing the narrator. And they used to test their students, used to test their shuyukh by sometimes changing the narration and so forth and so on. And obviously the sheikh would naturally test the student as well. But it has its dawabit, it has its rules and regulations. Yarhamakallah. Is that what you were talking about? Akhuna, what's your name, akhi? Wardi. Faddal Wardi. Yeah, as we mentioned, ikhwati fillah, in the deen of Allah, there are principles in our religion that come to us and come from the Quran and the Sunnah to simplify our lives, to make things easier. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, وَمَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah didn't make your religion difficult. Allah didn't make your religion difficult for you. So if a person has to go to a gynecologist, for an example, to the doctor, and the doctors of the opposite sex, and they're the only ones they're the only one who is on duty, and they have to see the aura, they have to check the aura, the doctor, there are complications in the birth of the child. So the man comes, the doctor, not the nurse, the doctor. Then in this case, this thing is allowed. In Islam, if something is haram, necessity makes that thing halal, but it's restricted. It's halal for a certain amount of time and to a certain degree, just enough to solve the problem, just enough to solve the problem. But we don't stretch it out more than what's needed. We don't stretch it out more than what's needed. So it is permissible, akhi wardi, for a man to be checked by a woman and for the woman to be checked by the man. But the Muslim has to say something. She has to say something. The husband has to say, without being uncooperative and a problem. He has to say, hey, is there a woman? Is there a woman to do it? And he can't go to the hospital with an attitude, I'm a Muslim and what I practice is what's going. It's just not realistic. And we alienate people and we make it difficult because now they're going to treat you bad and treat your wife bad or treat the one who they're responsible for, the patient. They're going to treat them in a bad way because of the way you were. So it's permissible out of necessity. Ad-durura tubih al-mahdhurat. Necessity makes things that are haram permissible, but they're only permissible in restricted ways, not open-ended. Any more questions, Ikhwani? Especially you African brothers from Gambia And Sudan, because you always stop me on the way out. It's only the Africans. Go ahead. Inshallah, we pass the message by each father, brother, their biological brothers, other brothers, giving dawah from the khutbah, from the lessons, and so forth and so on. We try to tackle these issues one by one, little by little. There are a lot of issues that are there. A lot of times people don't even know that this is in contradiction to the concept of the hijab itself. So we tackle the problem, akhi, by the best means and methods possible, by giving advice and so forth and so on. Just take it easy and don't be judgmental. Any more questions, ikhwani? Naam. Yeah, the Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, إذا تعطرت امرأة ثم خرجت من بيتها فهي زانية. If a woman puts on perfume and then she leaves her house, and she's committing zina. And the zina that he was talking about, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is not the zina where she's flogged. It's the zina that leads. It's the issue that leads to the zina. One of the ways that leads to the zina. Kutiba ala ibni Adam nasibahu min az-zina mudrikun dhalika la mahala. فالعينان زناهما النظر والأذنان زناهما السمع واليدان واللسان زناه النطق واليدان زناهما البطش والقدمان زناهما المشي والفرج يصدق ذلك أو يكذبه. Every single son and daughter of Adam is going to commit zina. And he's going to fall into it, and it can't be helped. The zina of the eyes is when you look at certain things. The zina of the ears is when you listen to it. The zina of the tongue is when you talk. Zina of the hands is when you touch it. Zina of the feet, walk into it. And the private part makes it real zina or not. And that the person went and it was done. So that perfume is from that chapter. The chapter and the door of the preludes, the things that happen that lead to the zina. Someone gets a whiff of it and they're enjoying the lady and having istimta' with the lady, and they don't have the right. That's for a husband and a husband alone. Her husband now or her future husband. It's not for anyone to smell the lady. So the cream is not permissible. Perfume is not permissible. Soap is not permissible. Underarm deodorant that gives off an odor is not permissible. And I know, ikhwani, I know. There are some people who watch what we say, and they're always trying to take our religion and what we say out of context. And they'll say, you see how backwards they are? They don't even want their women to take showers. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the companion women were on a high level of cleanliness. Hey, our women, Somalis, Pakistani, Africans, our women, Arab women, when they get married, our women, there are no women like the Muslim women. When it comes to smells and beauty, no comparison. There's no comparison. I say that without any hesitation. So when we say there's no soap, things like this, the ones that has scent, just don't use the scent. Or use the one where the scent is not strong and it doesn't go out. So for Umrah, for Hajj, when a lady has ihram, the Nabi allowed her sallallahu alaihi wasallam to use a perfume that has color with no odor. And the man can use perfume that has odor with no color. Odor with no color. Because the woman, again, is behind the scene. The woman is not out doing things like that. Okay, ikhwani. Last question, my man, right here. No, it doesn't mean that, akhi. It means that real iman, none of you truly believes until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. So if you don't love for your brother what you love for yourself, then your iman is deficient. You're not a true believer. Your iman is deficient. If you don't love the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than you love yourself and your mother and your father and everyone else, you're a Muslim believer, but it's not complete iman. So if a person doesn't have hayat at all, or his hayat is low, then his iman is going to be low. He doesn't have complete iman. So al-hayat is a prerequisite of having complete and true iman. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us hayat, give us modesty, and may Allah Azza wa Jal protect us, inshallah, because He Himself is one who has hayat, the Nabi said about Allah, Inna Allah Hayy Kareem. يستحي أن يرفع العبد إليه يديه فيردهما خائبتين. Allah is shy. He has modesty. Allah is shy and He is generous. He's shy, He's living and He's generous. And He's shy for someone to make dua to Him with his hands up and He doesn't give him what he asked him for. So we ask Allah Ta'ala to make us all die on the Tawheed and on the Sunnah and to give all of us al-Hayat. هذا وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.